The story starts with a little girl who was playing by the side of the street. Suddenly, she saw her beloved cat right in the middle of the road, the same cat that had died a few days ago. Overjoyed, she ran towards it, unaware that a large truck was speeding down the road from behind. At the same moment, her little brother also ran towards the street. As soon as Lewis saw this dangerous scene, without thinking, he sprinted forward and saved his son. But in the attempt to save the father and son, the truck driver lost control of the vehicle, causing the truck to overturn. The heavy tank loaded on the truck rolled toward the little girl standing by the roadside. By the time Lewis reached there, running frantically, his daughter was already lying in the bushes. He collapsed, holding his daughter's lifeless body tightly to his chest. The untimely death of their daughter completely shattered the parents from within. Both of them were lost in her memories day and night. Lewis couldn't accept Ellie's death and made a dangerous decision. One night, he went to his daughter's grave and exhumed her body. He then took her to a distant hilly area, about which a local legend was popular, that the soil there had the power to bring the dead back to life. After some hesitation, he buried his daughter there. He believed he was responsible for Ellie's death. Just a few days earlier, the entire family had moved to this village, leaving the city behind. Ellie had been very happy in this new place. When Lewis bought this house, it came with 50 acres of land for free. But there was a highway close to the house on which heavy vehicles often sped by. The next day, Louis left for his duty at the hospital. He was a doctor, and on his very first day, he had to attend to a case. At home, the mother and daughter were alone. That's when they heard a strange noise. Both of them moved in the direction of the sound and saw some strangely dressed children carrying animal carcasses in a small trolley. Ellie asked, "What are they doing?" Rachel replied that they were probably performing some religious ritual, but Ellie's curiosity increased, and she quietly started following them. After walking a short distance, they came across an old signboard that read, "Sematary." Ellie went inside and saw several graves. Suddenly, her eyes fell on a wooden gate made from tree branches, as if someone had intentionally blocked the way. She tried to climb over it, but suddenly a loud sound startled her, and she fell down. An old man appeared in front of her, and Ellie got scared, but the man gently bent down and removed the thorns stuck in her foot. During the conversation, she learned that his name was Judd, and he lived nearby. Slowly, they became friends. Judd told her many interesting things about the cemetery. Meanwhile, Rachel also arrived there searching for Ellie and thanked Judd. Judd warned them that wandering alone in this forest was dangerous, as people often lose their way here. Meanwhile, a terrifying incident was happening at the hospital. A nurse came running, covered in blood. It was reported that a student had met with an accident while riding a skateboard. The doctor tried his best but couldn't save him. Suddenly, the lights in the room began flickering strangely, and the doctor saw that the dead student suddenly sat up and started saying strange things. The doctor was left shocked. Just then, the nurse came back into the room. When the doctor looked again, the student was lying quietly as if nothing had happened. That night, upon returning home, Louis told his wife Rachel that he couldn't save a child's life at the hospital today. Rachel knew that Louis was blaming himself deeply. At midnight, Louis heard some strange noises. He looked outside the window and felt like someone was standing there. Suddenly, someone called his name from behind. As he turned around, the door opened by itself and someone walked out. Without thinking, Louis followed that person. The person headed toward a dense forest, and after walking a short distance, suddenly disappeared into the fog. Louis also walked into the fog and found himself in a strange animal cemetery. There he saw the same old wall made of dry branches. Louis was just about to cross when someone grabbed his leg. At that moment, Louis woke up, but as soon as he pulled off the blanket, he saw that his feet were covered in dirt. Now he realized it wasn't just a dream. The next morning, Louis was cleaning the yard when he saw his neighbor, Judd, standing nearby. Judd called out to him and asked him to come closer. Lying on the ground was Ellie's beloved cat, Church dead. Judd told him that perhaps a car had run over the cat. They decided not to let Ellie find out about this at night, so Louis and Judd decided to bury the cat in the old cemetery. On the way, Judd asked Louis, "What will Ellie do if she finds out that her beloved cat is dead?" Louis replied, "She will cry a lot." She considered Church a part of the family. Hearing this, Judd took the cat's body and told Louis to follow him to a special place. They crossed the old wall covered with bushes and reached the base of a hill. There was a small river where white bones were visible. Climbing up the stairs, they reached the top of the hill. Judd told Louis that he would have to bury the cat with his own hands and place 4 stones on top. Louis found this strange but did as instructed. The next morning, they told Ellie that the cat had gone out somewhere, but Ellie didn't believe it. She said, "I saw him outside my window last night." When Louis looked out the window, he indeed saw several paw prints on the ground. Ellie pointed toward the cupboard and said, "Church is in there." As Louis approached the cupboard and opened the door, he found the cat sitting inside. Louis was shocked because he himself had buried Church on the hill, but now there was no innocence in the cat's eyes, only a strange cruelty. Louis immediately went to Judd and asked, "What is happening here?" Judd simply replied, "There are some places in this world that don't follow any rules." That night, Church's body started to smell bad, so Ellie thought of giving him a bath. But as soon as she began brushing him, the cat suddenly pounced on her and scratched her. Ellie ran away in fear. Louis quickly treated her wounds. Ellie started feeling scared in her room. She told Louis, "Daddy, please close the door. I'm scared of the cat." Louis had made up his mind that now the Church, the cat, had to be gotten rid of permanently. That night, when Louis lay down on the bed exhausted, his wife Rachel planned something special to comfort him. But just then, Church appeared again, and this time, there was a dead bird in its mouth. Rachel screamed in fear. Louis finally decided, enough is enough. As soon as he tried to catch Church, it leaped at him and attacked his hand. Then it ran downstairs. Louis followed. Downstairs, he saw an old door, completely engulfed in darkness. And look at Louis' courage. He went inside that door. It was dark everywhere, but ahead he saw a forest. One night, Louis saw a shadow standing in front of him. As he approached, he realized it was the same boy who had died in a road accident a few days ago. Suddenly, he heard a child's voice behind him. Louis turned around, but there was nothing. But when he looked ahead again, a truck suddenly appeared and hit him. When he regained consciousness, he thought maybe he was sleepwalking. After that, Louis talked to his wife Rachel about preparations for their daughter Ellie's birthday. Both of them planned the party together and thought about inviting friends. The next morning, when Louis came to the drawing room, he saw a strange picture. At first, he thought Ellie had drawn it, but Ellie said that her little brother had drawn it. Louis sensed that something was wrong and immediately ran to his son's room. He saw their pet cat sitting over his son, looking angry. Louis saved his son. Louis became sure that something mysterious was happening on that hill where they had buried the cat. He went to Judd again and told him everything. Judd gave him an old book and explained that rituals used to be performed on that land, and any creature buried there could come back to life. Judd revealed that he had also buried his dog there many years ago. The dog did return alive, but it became extremely violent, and he eventually had to kill it. However, Judd had thought that Louis's cat would not turn out that way. Now, Judd regretted telling Louis about that place. Louis returned home thinking of giving the cat some sleeping medicine, but the cat sat there looking innocent. Louis's heart melted, and instead of harming it, he left the cat in a deserted forest so it could live there. After returning home, they celebrated Ellie's birthday. But Ellie was sad because she missed the cat. To change the mood, Louis suggested they all play hide and seek secretly. During the game, Ellie hid and wandered near the roadside. Suddenly, she saw the cat returning. Filled with joy, she ran toward it. But from the other side, a truck was approaching. Seeing her, her little brother also ran in the same direction. Louis saw all of this and rushed to save his son. But the driver was looking at his phone and lost control. The truck overturned and headed straight toward Ellie. This was the same scene with which the story had begun, and now everyone was gathered at Ellie's funeral. After their daughter's death, Rachel was devastated and left for her parents' house with their son. Louis was left alone. That night, he went to Judd's house and started drinking with him. But Louis secretly mixed sleeping pills into Judd's glass. While drinking, Judd started to realize everything, but before he could react, he passed out. Louis sat in his car, lost in thought. Then he picked up a shovel and went to Ellie's grave. He dug up his daughter's body and carried it toward the hill. On the way, he passed the same graveyard where he had earlier seen the dead boy, Victor. Victor tried to stop Louis and explain everything, but Louis was unaffected. The scene shifts to Rachel. Her son pointed toward a corner, saying, "Mom, there was something there." She replied, "Let's leave this place." When Rachel looked, there was nothing, but her son could clearly see someone standing there. Meanwhile, Louis had reached the top of the hill. He dug a deep hole, placed his daughter's body inside, and covered it with soil. Returning home, he arranged Ellie's clothes neatly and quietly sat in the room. Louis sat anxiously in the room, waiting for his daughter Ellie to return. Suddenly, he heard strange noises near the door. He rushed outside but saw no one. As he turned back, he noticed wet footprints on the ground leading straight to the basement. Following the footprints downstairs, he reached near his pet cat Church's old hiding place. When he pulled back the curtain, there was only a terrifying mask lying there. His daughter was nowhere to be found. Louis's heart shattered. Just then, from behind, someone called out, "Papa!" When Louis turned around, he saw his daughter standing there. He ran to her and hugged her tightly, tears welling up in his eyes upon seeing her condition. He then cleaned her up, bathed her, and combed her hair. But as he combed her hair, the injuries on her skull started to show. Louis's heart trembled, but still, he dressed her in new clothes and put her to sleep. The next morning, when Louis woke up, he saw Ellie once again wearing those same dirty old clothes and dancing in the hall. At first, Louis smiled, but within moments, Ellie started smashing and breaking things in the house. Louis shouted at her in anger, and Ellie's eyes turned red with rage. Just then, Rachel called, but Louis, out of fear, cut the call, afraid she might find out what's happening. Worried, Rachel called their neighbor Judd, asking him to go check on Louis. Judd immediately went to Louis's house and knocked on the door, but Louis didn't respond. When Judd insisted, Louis replied that he was sick and that coming inside could cause an infection. Judd was suspicious but left. As he walked away, he glanced up and saw Ellie staring directly at him. Terrified, Judd ran back to his house and locked the door. He was so frightened that he immediately fetched his old revolver. Suddenly, he heard a sound from upstairs. Nervously, he went up, checking all the rooms, but found no one. He sighed in relief and was about to head downstairs when he heard a cat's meow behind him. He turned around and saw the same cat. But then a face appeared in front of him. It was his wife's face. She said, "You shouldn't have told Louis about that place." But in the very next moment, her face changed into Ellie's. Ellie said, "Now I'll take you to where it all began." And she pounced on him, repeatedly stabbing him. All of this happened in front of the cat's eyes. Meanwhile, Louis was searching the house for Ellie. At that moment, Rachel arrived home with their son. Louis picked up the boy, but Rachel sensed something was wrong. She noticed there was mud on Louis's feet and injuries on his hands. She asked, "What have you done, Louis?" Louis was about to explain when suddenly Ellie came outside herself. As soon as Rachel saw her daughter, her entire body shivered. Ellie ran toward her mother to hug her, but Rachel, terrified, stepped back. She shoved Ellie away and ran upstairs with her son. Louis ran after her, trying to explain. "This is the same Ellie, our daughter." But Rachel refused to believe it. She said, "Our Ellie is dead. This is someone else." Just then, they heard something fall outside the room. Both of them fell silent and saw Ellie standing there, listening to everything. As soon as Louis reached the door, he saw Ellie was no longer there. He thought maybe she had gone to the neighbor's house. But in reality, Ellie had already reached the kitchen. In her hand, she held a sharp knife. Meanwhile, Rachel was lying in her room when suddenly Ellie attacked her. Rachel became alert just in time, but still, she suffered a deep knife wound on her palm. After that, Ellie struck again, this time stabbing Rachel in the stomach. Groaning in pain, Rachel shoved Ellie away and grabbed her son, fleeing the room. On the other hand, Louis saw that his neighbor Judd had already died. He now fully understood that something terribly wrong was happening. He ran back home. There he saw Rachel trying to pass their son out of the window. Louis caught the child, but at that very moment, Ellie stabbed Rachel in the back. Louis immediately locked the child in the car and rushed upstairs. He found Rachel lying on the floor, covered in blood. When Louis held her, Rachel took her last breath and pleaded, "Don't bury me in that place." Before Louis could process her words, Ellie struck him on the head with a heavy wooden chair, rendering him unconscious. Ellie then began dragging her mother's corpse toward the forest where the old animal cemetery was located. When Louis regained consciousness, Rachel was gone. He realized Ellie had taken her body back to that place. Louis ran into the woods, hearing Ellie's voice echoing all around. "Dad, you made a mistake by moving here." Before Louis could say anything, Ellie appeared and stabbed him in the back. Louis collapsed in pain. Ellie climbed onto him and placed the knife against his neck, ready to strike the final blow. But Louis wasn't one to give up easily. He mustered all his strength, threw Ellie to the ground and picked up a shovel, ready to finish her off. Just then, a metal rod pierced through his body from behind. When he turned around, he saw the woman standing there, Rachel, Ellie's mother, but now she too had returned from the dead. Together, mother and daughter dragged Louis's corpse away. In the end, Louis's son, locked inside the car, watched through the window. He saw three figures approaching, his mother, father, and sister. But now all of them had changed. And with that, this horrifying story came to an end. Let me know your thoughts. Also subscribe to this channel for more horror stories like this.